Hey friends, welcome back to the channel. My name's Rohan. I'm a third year medical student studying at Cambridge University. And in this video, I thought I'd read through my SAQ, which helped me gain admission here at Cambridge to study medicine. And this is following on from my general SAQ advice video, which if you haven't already watched, I recommend you do so now. Yeah, many people were asking me like, Rohan, how do I structure it, or can I see an example of an SAQ? And it never quite occurred to me that I could share my SAQ with you guys, just like how I shared my personal statement. So anyway, I've got my SAQ over here on my iPad, and I thought I'd do a similar thing to what I did in that video, in that I'll read like a couple of sentences and then I'll share my thoughts. So the first thing you'll note, just kind of commenting on the overall structure, is there's a distinct lack of structure. As I mentioned in my previous video on the SAQ, the character limit is 1,200, which is really short, so you don't have space for like more than 1 or 2 paragraphs at most. So basically in mine, I didn't worry too much about structure. I just wanted to get all like the ideas which I thought were relevant to the SAQ. Just to kind of recap the general content you want to be getting in your SAQ, you want to take this opportunity to have a more Cambridge specific outlook to your application. So things like the course structure and why the teaching style suits you. So anyway, let's start reading. So it starts off by going, my decision to apply to study medicine at Cambridge has been carefully considered, based on my research in the course structure, as well as discussions with current students. So in this opening sentence, I really want to get across the idea that I'm not just applying to Cambridge for the sake of it. I'm not applying just for the prestige. There's a specific reason I'm applying, and basically I'm just prefacing that by saying, look, I've done my research into it. One point to note is I've not talked too much, well, I haven't mentioned at all anything college specific, and this is something I recommend you follow in your SAQ as well, because you're not necessarily going to gain admission or even be interviewed at the college that you apply to. It'd be really random if you started talking loads about Jesus College, but then you ended up being interviewed at Robinson College. So just bear that in mind, try keep it more course orientated or more academically focused. Okay, let's carry on. I'm attracted to the traditional program Cambridge offers, with a clear emphasis on the core medical sciences in the first 3 years. I feel this will satisfy my desire to study medicine in a methodical manner, rather than analysing specific cases as in problem-based learning. I'm particularly looking forward to learning about pharmacology, as this is not really touched upon in A-level biology. Yeah, there's a little bit to unpack here. Basically, I'm trying to be as specific as I can about the course structure. Medicine at Cambridge has a clear preclinical to clinical divide, with the first 2 years really focusing in on basic sciences. The last 3 years are all your clinical skills and like more clinically relevant medicine in general. And your third year, which currently I am in, you get to intercalate in a subject which can be related to medicine. So this year I'm doing neuroscience, or it can be completely unrelated, something weird and wonderful like music, theology, sociology, stuff like that. So here I don't really talk about the intercalation just because personally it wasn't that big a factor for me wanting to apply to medicine here at Cambridge. Instead, I choose to focus more in on the preclinical to clinical divide because, as I say here, I feel that I do well learning theory first and then applying that. And notice here that how I've tried to link the Cambridge course structure to my personality. I use words like I'm methodical and I like to analyze things. I do take a little hit at problem-based learning, which in hindsight I probably shouldn't have, because although Cambridge is a traditional course, they do have a little bit of PBL, so that's problem-based learning, because it is mandated by the GMC. So in hindsight, I'd probably just remove like that bit about PBL. And then this next sentence about wanting to study pharmacology, yeah, that was a bit random. I remember my dad say something trendy like genetics, but like pharmacology was something which was a bit of a black box, simply because we'd never studied it at school before. Yeah, and I think they appreciated it. Well, at least they noted it, because I remember in the interview, I was actually interviewed by a lecturer who lectures second year medics, and he's a pharmacology professor. And yeah, that was a nice segue in. But that kind of just shows that they do read your SAQ and they do take a note of what you say you're interested in. So that's something to bear in mind. And yeah, I like how I've kind of made the point that I'm looking forward to study something above and beyond, or at least something we've never covered in school. That's all I really wanted to say about this section of the SAQ. Let's continue reading on. I'm excited to learn from and conduct research with some of the world's leading academics through regular supervision sessions. This exposure, along with the MB PhD program, offers flexibility to help me fulfill my ambition for a career in medical research. In spite of the predominant scientific focus, I admire the importance placed on teaching medical students to think from the patient's point of view in the Preparing for Patients course. So some of the things which I've mentioned here are supervisions, which, if you don't know, they're basically a small group teaching session where you have an expert or a professor, and usually it's either 1 to 2 or 1 to 3, or in some of the smaller subjects, even you have 1-to-1 supervisions. It's different from a lecture in that you get to bounce ideas off each other, so it's more like a conversation, and you kind of work through problems together, or you discuss ideas together, rather than just all one-way traffic from a lecturer to you. Supervisions are great, and it's something which you can very easily talk about in your SAQ. You could talk about how you like to develop ideas. You could talk about what an honor it would be to pick the brains of leaders in certain areas and whatever you're interested in. So yeah, that's a good one to mention. I've also mentioned I've kind of hinted on what my goals are in the future. So I've talked about the MB PhD program. Not gonna lie, this was a bit of signposting because I was never really that interested in it. I mean, I knew it was an option, but this is mainly just a signpost that I am academically orientated, and I would really appreciate the option of, potentially pursuing a PhD alongside my medical studies. You could easily mention something similar in your SAQ if you thought that was relevant. And then I just highlighted a few words here, I used the word excited and then admire. I've used it just to really try to showcase my passion for the subject, but also passion for the way it's structured here at Cambridge. So you can see here I've mentioned the Preparing for Patients course, which is actually quite a small course in comparison to your other subjects. So it really does show that I've actually gone away and looked at the course website. I think that leaves a good impression, so it's I know what I'm getting into. But anyway, let's read the final sentence and see how I round off the SAQ. Cambridge's rich history of Nobel Prize winning discoveries in all fields, including medicine, is an inspiration to me in my pursuit of a career in academic medicine. So personally, looking back at this, I think this is a really dodgy ending, just because I've talked about Nobel Prizes and rich history, and this kind of relates to the prestige side, which I mentioned that you should try avoid. You shouldn't just apply to Cambridge just for the prestige. It is a reason, it's not an invalid reason, but it shouldn't be your main reason for wanting to study here. You want to be actually interested in the subject and how they teach it here at Cambridge. So yeah, looking back at it, it's something I'd potentially avoid. But having said that, it is a fact that Cambridge are proud of their history, their traditions. I remember one of my supervisors last year, he always used to go on about how he now has the office of some famous immunologist. In the past he's written textbooks, and even the way they teach us in medicine, they don't just say the facts directly, but they like to explain the facts by explaining how they were discovered. So the original Hodgkin and Huxley experiments in the 40s and 50s, which led to the discovery or the description of an action potential. That's how they teach it in Cambridge, and they're very big on scientific history, well, history in any academic field. I guess maybe because it fosters that kind of first principles style of teaching, rather than just asking you to learn a bunch of facts. So, I don't know, maybe this was a positive last sentence, maybe it wasn't. I'll leave you to decide. So anyway, that's all for this video. I hope you found it vaguely useful just to see an SAQ in full. Don't worry about it too much. You can see, I've literally have no structure here really. I've just tried to add a little bit more, which I couldn't quite convey in my personal statement, and really make it Cambridge specific. But anyway, if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, and consider subscribing to the channel for more videos like this in the future. And just a reminder, if you haven't seen my SAQ video, my general SAQ advice video, please click the card somewhere over there, or it'll come up on the screen, and that'll take you to that video and should give you some good advice to how to approach your SAQ. Anyway, take care and bye for now.